Lay. Sir. Yeah.
Hey there, y'all, and welcome to Sideline Shenanigans,
your go-to Texas Legacy podcast,
where we'll talk all things club, culture,
and chaos from inside our volleyball world.
We're your hosts. I'm Jen Cobb, director at Texas Legacy.
And I'm Katie Davis, owner of Texas Legacy. And we're excited to dive in and talk about who we are, where we came from,
and what makes us the best club around.
We'll be flawed, unfiltered,
and most likely winging it every week.
So buckle up and we'll see you on the sidelines.
Did we get it? I'm Jerry, aka Jen Cobb, and this is
Terry, aka Katie Davis.
But we wanted to start this podcast because we want to kind of give a little bit of information about Texas Legacy to those of you who are either new here or unfamiliar with how this whole thing got started and how we got to where we are today. So I'm going to throw it over to my girl, Terry, to kind of give some backstory about how Legacy came to be.
We are going into season 11 this year, and wow, it seems like literally forever ago that this was even a baby thought. Well, I think that like the last couple of years have gone very fast, but like thinking about like where we started seems like forever ago. So I was in oil and gas for a long time, and I had at the time I had 2 kids, and you know, being a family that works in oil and gas, my husband was in oil and gas, and you know, the expectation is that the man does not take off work when the kids are sick. It is for the wife to do.
This is brand new information.
So it caused a lot of, you know, issues on scheduling things at my job. And so between paying for daycare and then trying to manage, you know, kids in daycare that were sick all the time, I just decided to step away from oil and gas and just coach on the side, you know, just do something fun for myself. And I worked for an organization in the Woodlands and then decided to go work for somebody else who's just smaller and working, you know, to be just good at what they were doing. And I helped them get, you know, off the ground, and it was great. And I was able to develop some really awesome relationships. But I felt like something was missing, and that things maybe could have been done differently. And I'm not going to say better, but differently. I was still loving what I was doing, but was missing the part of being able to feel like fulfilled completely with it, and knowing that I can, you know, could make a difference. Anyways, the parents from my team that season kept telling me, like, you need to start your own thing. Like, you need to do your own thing. You know, I was then pregnant with my 3rd child. And that was, I'm like, there's no way that I can have a baby in like October and do something like that. Well, then I did have a baby in October. And then by March, we were in talks of doing it and coming up with a name. Erin Parks was used to be a coach at McCullough Junior High, and her friend Allie, we all went to dinner, had some sushi, and literally came up with colors and a name. And as we walked out of there, Erin was like, are we like really doing this? She said, well, I say me, but like, I'll help you like do things, but like, you're gonna have to do everything like behind the scenes. And I was like, I guess so. And so I went home and talked to Eric about it. And I didn't really know like how to move forward with it, you know.
Yeah.
From there, I just started digging, and then I got really nervous to like actually do it, because it's, you know, scary. It's a lot to like, you know, go out on your
anything
own
from scratch is like, there's just so many possibilities of what way it could go.
Yeah. And I hadn't been in the club world long either. So I didn't feel like, you know, that I maybe had the resources, but at the same time, I felt like that was what was going to make me like be okay, like not have this need to be, you know, what it was at the other places I worked at, but just like, okay, if I had one team, you know, I know I can make that one team happy. That's what I've been doing for, you know, these last couple of years anyway. So if I just had one team, okay, it'd be easy to rent a court or whatever. And I was like, okay, I don't even know like financially, how do you get this off the ground running? Like, again, I've been, you know, in oil and gas forever. So I was sitting in the doctor's office, and I got a phone call from our friends who they have a family foundation. And so every year they get their group of friends together, and they all put in like a name, you know, a charity or a foundation or something, and a hat for them to consider who they'll give to for that year. And unknowingly, Eric had done that.
Oh, that's
he had
so cool.
Put Texas Legacy in there, and I had no idea. So I get a phone call. I'm sitting in the doctor's office with, again, a sick kid. And
circling all that back.
seriously, full circle. And they were like, hey, I just wanted to call and tell you that we have picked Texas Legacy to be who we give to this year, and we're going to give you $10,000 to get started. And I was like, what? I mean, literally, like, I didn't know that that had even been put in the hat. I didn't know that, like, that my husband was going to be as supportive in that moment. Right. Because he was like, what are you talking about? We have 3 kids. And our baby is like 4 months old. And so it was just, I was like, okay, God, okay. Like, you know, I had been praying about it and just worried. And that was like, literally like, here's your sign. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we just got moving from there.
Awesome. Who came up with the name Texas Legacy?
I don't necessarily remember how it all panned out, but we were talking
about... So it
about...
wasn't you, because you do typically like to make it about you.
I mean, always. I don't necessarily want like a mascot type thing, right? Like I didn't, you know, and I didn't want to make it something Houston because we weren't technically in Houston, and I didn't know that at that point we didn't have like an actual home. Right. So I kept thinking about something that would be, you know, generic, if you will. Right. And how are we going to have an impact on these athletes? Because it was all about having a different experience, right?
Yeah,
that's where our foundation was, to provide something that other clubs could not. And we didn't really know how that was going to look, but we know, like, I knew that I was good at building relationships and I was good at pouring into kids. And so, you know, was I good at coaching volleyball at that time? I'm not as good as I am now. But, you know, but with all those things combined, like, we would grow together in all those areas. And so I wanted to leave a legacy. And so we came up with Texas Legacy and just liked the way that it sounded.
Love it.
I think I would have thought about the letters, like when you put TLVC a little bit differently. Yeah. But sometimes with our uniforms, you also get to know that about me. Mm-hmm. It makes me a little crazy. Yeah. 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 And even the word legacy in some fonts just doesn't look good. Yeah. But it is what it is. Yeah. You know, we can't be great at everything. It's funny because, you know, obviously we're best friends and we've been doing this together forever, but I don't know that I actually knew that came from a phone call while you were in the doctor's office. Yeah. You know, and it was like a surprise. And I think that that's really cool because it is so difficult, obviously, to start anything, right? There's too many unknowns. It's like, as women, I think a lot of times we come up with like crazy ideas, and like this podcast, for example. And then it's like actually making that come to fruition. And so, you know, the fact that you and Eric had talked about it, and it was kind of like, like, are we going to do this? Are we not? And then bam, you know, he happens to tell a friend, and all of a sudden you have some funding, and it's something that you can actually put into place. Well, I think like the neat part for me is, you know, I'm always trying to talk. I'm an overanalyzer. Y'all will get a full picture of that as we go through this, but it's exhausting. It's like, it's not annoying at all. It's terribly exhausting for me and for Jennifer. But I think that I was like trying to talk myself out of it, right? Mm-hmm. All the reasons why. How are you going to compete with the Woodlands Wave? How are you going to compete with Houston Juniors? But at that point, it wasn't about like competing skill-wise with them. It was truly just, I don't care about that. Like, I'm not trying to be them. I don't care about taking their players. Like, there will be people who are looking for me, right? Who are looking for what I can provide. But then when our friends called and told me that, and like the words that they used, which now their daughter plays here, which is pretty awesome. I know, that is so cool. The words that they used about like just believing in my vision and what we were setting out to do. And like the wife, Courtney, she played volleyball, you know, all through her life, and her sisters, and, you know, the way that it impacted her, but what she wished maybe she could have gotten differently from it. You know, she was hopeful for her kids to be able to have those kinds of experiences. And so that, you know, seeing that there's like nothing, there was not a club, there's still not a club like us here. And they wanted to be supportive of that and just help us get to where we could it's super cool. More. It's what, you know, like 11 years later. So the girl that plays for us now was like 1 or 2 years old at that point. So yeah, that's really awesome. Okay, so not to turn around and make it about me, but please, I will go ahead and say how I got involved in this whole thing. Oh yeah, this is a great story, Jennifer. Do tell. So we, my husband and I moved here it's been over 10 years at this point. So right when Katie started Legacy, really before even the first season got started, I guess, y'all, I mean, you came up with the idea and stuff like in March, April. We moved in June of 2014. A little bit of backstory. Katie's husband and my husband went to college together. So there was always a connection through our husbands
that, you know, they were desperately hopeful that we would at some point become friends.
We had zero interest.
We lived in Fort Worth right after college. And so, you know, we spent the first part of our marriage living up in the DFW area and like nowhere close to where they lived down here. And so, you know, they kept trying to force it upon us to be friends, you know, for the first however long that was after we all got married. And
we tried really hard to bond over LSU football.
We did, but you know, like sometimes it's just like you're pulling teeth to get to
just
become friends with somebody.
Just different seasons of life. Yeah.
It was never that we didn't like each other. So Eric, I want to make that very clear. It was never that we didn't like each other. It was just kind of like, why do we need to be good friends? We don't live in the same place. We, you know, at that point we didn't have any kids. You were, you know, popping out number 3. So it just wasn't the right timing. So lo and behold, we end up moving here very, very randomly. We had Katie and Eric and the kids over for dinner one night. So I'd had my son in August. I think y'all came over like in October or something. And we all had dinner and we were just kind of talking about what you were doing with Texas Legacy. And I had coached at a school for the previous 8 years. And it's something that I've been very passionate about. I had also created my own business plan to make my own club up in the Fort Worth area. And it was something that I really thought that I was going to do, but then our lives kind of got flipped upside down when we decided to move to Houston. And I was 8 months pregnant with our child Tate. And so it just obviously went on the back burner because it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So when they came over for dinner that night and Katie was talking about how she had started Legacy, and I think that you had even posted something on Facebook at one point, and us being like very, very distant friends, if you will. And I was like, congratulations, that's so awesome. And you said, if you ever, like something random, like if you ever move here, I have a job for you or something like that.
Wow, God,
yes,
look at you.
Destiny. Mm-hmm.
That's like, oh, open door.
Literally had no idea at that point that we would be moving. That was seriously a situation that happened in 2 weeks. So yeah, we were just talking about it with the kids playing, and you know, I said, I don't know what I can like really commit to right now because I have, you know, a 2-month-old, 3-month-old at the point, and
that lasted very little time.
Right. But if you need something from me, I'm sure that I can find a way to help. So I started with just doing like developmental stuff.
Yeah, we had like a junior high league, if you will.
And that was my wheelhouse because that's what I did for 8 years while I was at Aledo. So it fit, it worked. It was like once a week. And so it wasn't, you know, super time consuming, but I mean, little by little, I guess we started to kind of hang out a little bit more on the side, and we would go have margaritas, which is still our thing. And kind of just talk things through. And I mentioned at some point that I had made a business plan, and, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to find a way to make her think she needs me.
I don't know what you were putting out there in the world then, but that was when Aaron needed to step away. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do trying to do this by myself? And then you're like,
hi,
I have a plan.
Would you like to look at my 10-year plan? I also have a 5-year plan. So yeah, I just kind of started with that. And I don't know, it was definitely a God thing. And I think that one of the big things for me that was so intriguing is it was literally Katie's vision for Texas Legacy was quite literally the exact same idea and vision that I had when in my living room in Benbrook, I'm writing out a business plan. It's fueled by God, and there's always a presence of God in everything that we do. And I think that stands on its own. That is not something, and a lot of people that have come in have said that is what has drawn them to Texas Legacy. And so being that and the relationship side of it is something that has driven this whole machine for going on 11 years now, it was very appealing to me. And I wanted to make sure that I could step in and do whatever I could do to, you know.
Yeah, well, then you became obsessed with me. So
we have the same hair, we have the same color.
Yeah, our husbands were probably pretty regretful for pushing us together
for sure
for so long, because, you know, now it's literally like an everyday thing. So
yeah, Well, it is what it is. Let's talk a little bit about the relationship side of what we do, because that is one of the staples in what has, created the culture at Texas Legacy. Sure. It's what has fueled a lot of people to want to, if not come over, to at least look into what Texas Legacy is, because the word of mouth, I think, has pushed us along for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And basically when people talk about us, there's kind of like a similar, underlying text to what their idea about Texas Legacy is. So talk to us a little bit about relationships.
I am relationship driven. I am a people pleaser.
I am not. It's a great balance.
it is a great balance, but also it's also probably the hardest thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I love to build relationships with our athletes, and I pride myself on being great at it, but it's also easier when you are coaching a team, right? To develop those relationships and create that bond, and the parents get to see a completely different.
Okay.
I was like, wait, no.
It's not, I'm not watching anymore, so it's scary.
A completely different experience with you as a coach versus even just us being, administrators, directors within the club. And so the team that I basically started with was able to help me carry that out and fuel it even when I wasn't coaching them, right? It is, investing in your athletes in a different way. It's checking in on them when they're not on the court with you. It is knowing what's happening in their life so that you can talk to them, knowing them well enough to know when they're off, and you can be like, hey, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And not just like surface level, like, and I'm not like asking them in front of people, going out to the car with them, texting them, say, hey, like, you want to go grab some coffee, whatever, to give them, an opportunity, a space where they can be vulnerable and open up and say things maybe that they can't say to their parents, they can't say to their friends. I don't know. But also with the parents is that I never wanted a parent to feel like they couldn't come talk to us, whether it was, maybe they had some high emotions over what happened, playtime, or
including myself.
Yes. Well, we're all there. But I think that I say I want them to. I really do want parents to be able to come into those things in a productive,
non-fueled environment. Not
way,
emotionally driven.
And so I open the door that it's like, hey, if you have questions, if you want to talk, and it's not like they email me and say I want to have a meeting. I'm like, oh no, what's it about? Can't do that. I'm like, sure. Let me know what we're talking about. I'll come prepared. But talking through how rotations work, talking through where the kid is at skill level, talking, being able to say, hey, this is what happened at practice, and I'm handling it. I don't need you to do anything about it, but I need you to know that this is something that we're working through, and giving them, just letting them know who I am and where my heart is. I think allowed for them to trust me when I was being, crazy Coach Katie and breaking clipboards, or, making them do, 40 laps around a gym because they let a free ball drop, for the 50th time, whatever it is, I've had my moments. But I think that those moments, they were like, okay, that person loves my kid. Coach Katie loves my kid, and she's going to push her to be better. So I'm going to let her be crazy, and I'm going to support her. If she's making them do push-ups and timeouts, they deserve that. Right. And so I think that has really been something that has been huge for us for Legacy, to have open communication, open relationships. Not, hey, I'm a director, you can't come talk to me.
Correct.
It's no, let me hear you. I want to know your name. I want you to come talk to me. I might be exhausted afterwards, guys, for socializing, but I want you to come talk to me when you walk in the door. If you see me, don't be like, oh, I don't want to bother her.
Right.
Come say hi. Come introduce yourself. If I haven't met you, we have 300 and something kids in this organization now. So I don't know all the parents. I wish I did, but I don't. I love to be out and see our kids, and they're like, Coach Katie.
Right.
Or, we're at games and parents are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. They know you and they want to talk to you and they want to be part of what you're doing.
Right. When there is a trust that's being established between director and athlete, or director and parent, or coach and parent, athlete, whatever, when that trust is there, it becomes less of a volatile situation. And
it's not an attack.
It's a conversation.
Well, and because parents don't understand.
Most of the time,
the way that we do, right?
Yeah. And that's, I will say, for me as a parent now that has a child in sports, it is really freaking difficult. I don't think for a long time I gave parents enough credit that you just need to trust us and like sit down and let us do our job, because it can be very difficult to sit and like see your kid doing things that maybe you don't agree with that they should be doing out there or whatever, and like and be able to keep your mouth shut and again trust.
Can you do that?
That I can't, not yet. No,
Remember,
I'm getting there.
I'm
still new to this. Okay.
All the times you spoke to me about that.
Okay, here comes the I told you so moments, which is fine. I do deserve it, but yeah, I just think that if we can exude that in the way that we run this business, then, you know, our coaches have found a way to kind of like latch onto that mentality as well. And I think that it gives them platform, I guess, to run their teams and a trust in us as well, that, you know, we're going to have our coaches' backs when there's situations. Like there's just, I think that trust is like the biggest word, you know, that it has to be found amongst us, amongst our coaches, amongst parents and players.
Well, and I think that what I've noticed with our coaches is that their love for relationships, and I think it's with the athletes, but also with us. And we are very good at having relationships with our staff. And
well, because it's important to us.
It
like
is the community and like being with our coaches and seeing their success, and, you know, our Christmas parties to happy hours to whatever we can do prior to season starting, because then our life is over. But, you know, it's really important because we want to invest in people who are investing in your kids, right? And the kids, it makes a big difference. But I will say, I want people to know, like, truly, as relationship driven as I am and the efforts that we put into, you know, building and maintaining, I want people to realize that it's like not as easy as you think. And so when, you know, if I'm one day I'm just like tapped out and you think that I'm in a bad mood or something, like I also have 3 kids, and a husband, and
outside of this is
and
a whole other life.
When I give and give and give here, and then I go home and I'm depleted and don't have as much to give, you know, trying to find the balance of those relationships and pouring into my, you know, the athletes around here, but also like my own children who are also athletes here, 2 of the 3 now. But, you know, I think that I want people to know that like we're human, and, you know, that there will be days that we're not the best versions of ourselves, but we'll always be like who we are, and kids. And I always tell my team, I'm like, not feeling it today, guys. Like I'm not, you know, it's been a rough day or whatever. I'm tired. I'm sick. You know, I'm sad. We faced a lot of challenges this last year. So I had to be very honest with my teams this previous year about where I was at, you know, mentally and physically. And, you know, I just want people to know that, like, as great as we are about relationships, like, I need people to be able to give us, you know,
some grace. Yeah, definitely imperfect. And I think that one of the cool things about Katie and I that we get told this frequently is, you know, we're a good balance for each other, because Katie is very, we're both very relationship driven. Yeah. We both, you know, love big, and that is very hard sometimes. But Katie is a people pleaser, and I'm more of like a lay it all out there, brutally honest, kind of blunt person, which some people don't take to very well. But I think that it is very good for us to have that balance when dealing with people. And sometimes that can be looked at as unapproachable, which I hate that word, because I don't think I'm unapproachable. I just think sometimes you don't want to hear what I have to say.
No, I don't. Okay, but let's even touch on the unapproachable thing. I feel like that's like a cop out for society today.
Yeah.
I think it's a, you know, I don't want to have a tough conversation. So I'm just going to use the excuse that you're unapproachable and you don't make me feel like, well, how am I supposed to make you feel like you can come talk to me? Yeah. Like what? Honey, like, I'm relationship driven, but I'm not going to, like, at some point, if you're 18 years old and you're feeling a certain way and you can't come have a conversation, it's not my responsibility at that point to ask you every time I think that you're upset. 10-year-olds, sure. Yeah, right. I will, you know, dive into that differently and talk to them in a different manner. I want to teach them, you know, how to have those conversations, how to how to approach an adult and feel confident in that.
It has served us very well, I think, working together as closely as we do. And even in our friendship, you know, that we have very similar, but also very different personalities. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm a Terry and Jerry extraordinaire.
Jen's the life of the party. Jen loves attention.
Okay. Jen loves attention.
When their camera's on.
Sure. Katie has a way of making everything about herself. So.
It's fair. It really is.
You know, again, it's like it's balance.
When someone's like, Jennifer, you look so pretty, I'm like, oh, and me? What about me?
Did you actually see me?
Yeah, did you know that I was here?
I'm standing right here.
Are you wait, you compliment her first and then me. I'm just gonna wait my turn. Got it. Okay.
I'll wait, but like I need you to make sure that you say something
Yeah,
to me
please.
as well.
Please don't leave this room without telling me. Katie, your teeth look good today or something.
Yeah, you can find something, surely. Testing. Say more words.
Is it too early to start drinking? No, because Katie and Jennifer have Prosecco.
I don't say anything stupid.
Okay. No promises.
Ooh. Okay. Let's run through it a couple times to get our timing right.
We need our mics.
Mic check 1 2.
Mic check. 3 4.
You just gotta go when I go. Okay. Okay. Wait. Hey there, beautiful people, and welcome to Sideline Shenanigans.
Just like a soup podcast. And the way you set up. Hello, beautiful people. Oh my god,
I'm gonna cry. Okay. All right. This is why we film. This is why you film. It's gonna be hilarious to go back and watch.